Alright, so this lesson is going to be on writing polynomial functions. So we've done this before. We've been given the zeros and we found a polynomial function that has those zeros. The only difference is now some of those zeros might be imaginary zeros. Alright, so one thing that you guys need to remember is that imaginary zeros come in conjugate pairs. Right, so if 2i is a 0, negative 2i is also a 0. So the imaginary zeros always come in conjugate pairs. So sometimes you'll be given only one of the imaginary zeros, and it's up to you to know that its conjugate is also a 0. So for example 1, we're going to find the polynomial function with the given zeros. And our first set of zeros is 2 and 4i. Now it's up to you to make a note that if 4i is a 0, negative 4i is also a 0. Even if they didn't give it to you, you'll have to know. All right, so we're going to call our function something. I'm going to call my function f of x. You can call it y or whatever you want to call it. And then we are going to write the factors that would give us those zeros. Now it is helpful, it's not necessary, but extremely helpful that you multiply the conjugates first. So it looks kind of intimidating when you see imaginary factors, but if we multiply those together, it actually will get rid of the i's because we multiply the first, we can do the shortcut, and then the last. Anytime we have an I squared, it can be simplified, and negative 16i squared is really just positive 16. All right, and then we would multiply those together. We can't do the shortcut on those, so we will just do all the distributing. All right, that is a polynomial function that has those zeros. Now, when we did this before, we would check it on the calculator, and that's a little bit of an issue because imaginary zeros don't show up on the calculator. The graph is only the graph of real numbers. It is not the graph of anything imaginary. But we can check to make sure that this only has one real 0 and that it is at 2. And it does. It's it right there. So that's an option for you guys to check on the calculator, but we can't know 100% unless we just factored it back out. Okay, so let's look at another one. For b, our zeros are negative 3 and 5 plus 2i. All right, so don't forget that imaginary zeros come in conjugate pairs. So if 5 plus 2i is a 0, 5 minus 2i is also a 0. All right, so we're going to call our function something, and then we are going to write our factors. So don't forget that even though it has two terms, it's still the opposite. So it's x and then minus 5 minus 2i. And then the other one for this one is x minus 5 plus 2i. And we did one like this when we were only talking about real zeros. And I showed you a way you could group them to make it a little easier for you to multiply. So these both have an x minus 5, so we would group those together. And then they are like conjugates, so I can just multiply x minus 5. I can do the shortcut. X minus 5 times x minus 5, and then negative 2i times positive 2i. Okay. We have a little bit to do before we're ready to multiply again. So I would square x minus 5. And then negative 4i squared is really plus 4. And then once I combine my like terms in there, I'm ready to multiply again. All right, so now I would distribute x. And then distribute 3. And then finally, I would go back and combine my like terms. So negative 10x squared plus 3x squared, 29x minus 30x. All right, and that should be a polynomial function that has those zeros. All right, and then the last example we're going to do is actually a problem out of your book. It's on page 165, number 55. I'll just read it to you. So the directions say to use the given 0 to find all the zeros of the function. All right, so our function is f of x equals x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 4. And the given 0 that we have is 2i. All right, so what is also a 0? We're only given that 1 0, 2i. But I know that the conjugate of 2i is also a 0. All right, now I don't know how to do synthetic division with the I. We can't. So, but what we can do is go ahead and multiply these together, because I know when I multiply them together, I'm not going to have imaginary anymore. I have x squared plus 4. So then I can divide my function by that. So I can take x squared plus 4. Now I can't do synthetic division, but I can do long division. I'm going to divide that into my function. Right, so I would ask myself, what do I multiply x squared by to get x cubed? And that's just going to be x. And then I would distribute that x, being really careful that I line up my like terms. All right, and then when I subtract, this is going to just come down. That is 0, and That also comes down. And then that's going to be minus 1. And then when I change my signs, I get a remainder of 0, which I should have because I knew that that was going to be a factor because I used my zeros to find it. So the final factor is x plus 1, and then that 0 is just going to be 1. All right, so those are all the zeros. All right, so your assignment is page 165 through 166. 45, 46 through 50 even, 56, 57, and 84.